Welcome to the Identity Work Podcast. If you are a high achiever struggling to find purpose in work, then join us as we discover how to create more meaning in work and life. Hey, welcome to this week's episode of the Identity Work Podcast. We are so thankful that you are here and joining us on this journey as we talk about work. And today we are talking about how to manage pressure, what science says about using stress to grow learning and resilience. Man, I feel the pressure, Adam, to get this episode right.
I like it. I don't know how in advance you come up with your intro puns, but I feel like they always land for me. They always make me smile.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That one just came to me. If you can.
Wow, it's amazing. This is good content.
Yeah, guess we're getting better. We're approaching our 50th episode. We have to think of something amazing to do for our 50th.
Yeah. We'll have to think about it. It's
Think
getting
about
up. It's getting
In the
soon.
meantime, we can remind our listeners, we're actually on Instagram, which is pretty cool. So you can look up the Identity Work Podcast on Instagram and follow us. You'll get clips of the show and get awesome topics. So, and you can remember to rate and review the show too. Just a shameless plug.
I'd love to take a moment and just say, like, if you have thoughts or feedback or like things that you would like to hear us talk about or do differently, and let us know those things too. You know, it doesn't just have to be like praise us and tell us how awesome we are and all the good things that we're doing in your life. Like, we want this thing to be valuable to you. So if there's some topic you're like, man, they never talk about this, or I don't like when they do that, like, hit us up, let us know.
Yep. Echo that. We love feedback, continuous improvement. All right. Enough of the housekeeping. Let's talk about pressure. Maybe one of the first things we talked about, Adam, is you talked about the difference between stress and pressure. Do you want to just unpack? And obviously, there's research behind it, but I think that would be kind of a helpful thing for me to understand.
Yeah, the research did not have this like stress definition, pressure definition. This is Adam original. I made this up.
Great. We'll get to the research.
The research does
Stay
sort of
tuned.
like support the general idea of where I was going, but stress and pressure, I made that up. The difference that I have felt, and to set a little bit of context on this, like, I was sort of on the precipice when I wrote this of going back to work. So, like, maybe one day in, feeling different at the end of that day than I felt the day before when I had just had to stay at home. And what I came to in that reflection was that stress and pressure are different. Stress is like, it's important that I do a good job, almost like for myself. It's sort of like internal. I want to do a good job. I want to, I have like tasks I need to do that I'm holding myself to doing. And pressure is more external. Like, if I don't do this, I will let somebody down. And there are other people that I'm blocking that if I don't get these tasks done, they are not able to do their work. These sort of like external circumstances was the best I could come up with as to why, again, like at 5 p.m. on my first day of work, it felt very, very, just felt like more emotionally drained, I would say, than 5 p.m. my last day of being at home, and trying to kind of wrestle with, like, why does this feel different? Yeah.
Would it make sense to feel to say like stress is a little bit self-imposed and pressure is a little bit external imposed? No?
Yeah, I think that's like a fair way to think about it. There's definitely no world where these things don't exist for you. Like, you're going to feel stress, you're going to feel pressure. I think even in parenting, I don't think parenting is like a no pressure environment. I think maybe parenting a 3-month-old is a no pressure environment, but at some point they're going to be an external force that has very strong opinions about, you doing things. And there's going to be other parents that are, a part of coaching a team or whatever. So yeah, it's not like you could just turn it off, but it does feel a bit more internal, external to me.
And now, yeah, how do we manage pressure? Stress isn't fun.
Man,
uh,
I don't know. It's a good question. I'm excited to get your opinion of managing pressure. And this is not this is like an edit post the fact, post writing this newsletter and today being a very, very high high pressure and high stress maybe day at work.
I love it. Yeah, because you
Man,
talk
I
about
just
the
would
theory, and then it's like,
yeah.
it's nice to talk about pressure. It's like,
I would
today
love your
sucked. I
advice,
felt the
honestly,
pressure.
of
Okay,
my
yeah.
day. Here was my day today. Basically, like at 8:30, I looked at the computer, and at 5:30, I looked away from the computer, and I think my heart rate existed at like 2x my resting for 9 hours, and my wife tried to talk to me a couple times, and I don't think I even heard her. I was just like felt like I was in a dead sprint the entire day. Um, where I finished and just face planted onto my bed and didn't move for like 15 minutes. That was like the kind of day that I had. Because it's just like there was so much to do. There's so much to do, and I'm fighting to be done not at 8 p.m., because I like really value this time before my daughter goes to sleep at 7. And when she's awake in the morning, like I don't want to start earlier. And I don't know the result. Like, is that okay to just like absolutely sprint for 9 hours to the point where I feel like my brain becomes mush? But then I did protect the time outside of that. I don't know. How do I think about that?
I guess I'd ask why was it so busy? Was something dropped on your plate last minute? Or people out? Yeah. What what caused
Yeah,
the sprint?
we have some big impending deadlines that are truly hard deadlines, not soft deadlines. Um, that just have like a lot of work to go to get there, and we're not a lot of people, and um, there's I don't know, there just feels like there's a lot to do, and it feels like everyone is also doing. It's like I'm working way outside of my job description. If you were to write it down on a piece of paper, but everyone's working way outside of their job description. It's not like I'm the only one, or if I wanted to give a task away, there's someone who could catch it. It's like everyone's already catching all the extra tasks, and I'm catching the remaining extra tasks. That's just how startup land is going right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I think there's maybe part of it that when I get 30 seconds of air to breathe in a time like this, when I'm not in the heart heart
Yeah.
pumping
Yeah.
zone, I think about systems that I should put in place. Like, oh, I just kind of banged my head against a wall on that for 2 hours. When if I'd taken 10 minutes to sharpen my axe, to use the George Washington or Abe Lincoln or whoever famous ancient American said that, I could have cut the tree down in another 10 minutes, but instead I spent an hour and a half trying to chop it down with a dull axe. That's like my one thought of what I think would have made it go smoother.
Yeah. Do you feel like I think one of the things we've talked about is the seasons, and even like some of our most fulfilling, meaningful seasons of work have actually been some of the longer hours, and obviously we're in different stage of life. But do you feel I just asked in the sense of like, do you feel like this is a season, and how long is the season? Like, is it going to be intense days for the next week, or do you feel like it's going to be intense days or the deadlines like a month and a half out? And
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good question. It's actually like a perfect segue to the research. I don't know how intended that is or unintended, but the research Steven made a very funny face for those that aren't going to get to see it and just hear the audio. The research basically talks about two different types of pressure. One is challenge pressure and one is hindrance pressure. Challenge pressure would and a lot of that is like your framing of how you view the pressure. Challenge pressure would be pressure like pushing you towards something meaningful, some goal that matters to you, and that feels worthwhile. That pressure, where hindrance pressure is more like you could think of it as pointless bureaucracy, sort of like pressure for the sake of pressure that isn't leading you towards something that you want, um, or that you think is important. Um, I think for me, this is certainly challenge pressure, 100%. And I think that it is time boxed. The time box is longer than a week. Like the time box is maybe 4 months. But I'm also figuring out how to work and be a dad and want to have hobbies like this. And I think that's also just added sort of like, I don't know, pressure um to try to balance all these things and learn how to balance them and learn how to like emotionally balance them. Um I finished when I finished the workday today, I smashed my face onto our bed and I laid down for 5 minutes. And then my wife asked me how my day was. And my answer was like a month from now, I'm gonna look back and think this was the perfect day. Like I learned an immense amount. I got better. We made good decisions. I pushed things forward. I did all the stuff that I think for me particularly is very meaningful work. But like I feel tired. um, and it felt hard, which is maybe the point, but that's how it felt today.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, I had one of these days Friday, and probably someone listening to this podcast came up to me at the coffee shop and was like, sat down to chat, and I was like, wanted to chat and be present, and then also like looking at my laundry list of things to do, and we have like 4 announcements this week for clients, and trying to finish, so I didn't spend as much time with him as I wanted, and but at the end of that day, the same thing is like my brain, like I felt like I left it all out on the field. It almost felt like I just finished a basketball game. Like I felt physically exhausted, but mentally so, and almost in a
Uh,
good way. But anyways, a long-winded way of saying 4 months of that does feel l- long and challenging. But is it's interesting that like the outsider perspective, and I think maybe that's part of the lesson too. Is you had that it was like looking back on this, I think it'll be a dream day. That's interesting too.
yeah, yeah. I think it certainly will. I look back at my time in consulting, and this is another thing I said to my wife is like, this is how every day felt in
Yeah,
consulting to me.
yeah,
But add another like double the time that I spent doing the work. Like it ended at 5:30, ended at 1 in the morning, and all 16 of those hours were like heart pumping. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get this done. Work,
yeah,
and yeah, I do think there's something to like seasons, even if it's not like weekly seasons, like bigger like multi-month, multi-year seasons of there being some differences. Like the back end of my last job was much less intense because I had been doing it for a while. I knew it, like there was nothing that I was going to get thrown that was going to scare me or, you know, I was 2x more efficient at the end than when I started. And I think these moments of intensity feel better, feel more okay coming off of seasons of more rest.
yeah,
Like there's something about having the rest and feeling the boredom that now makes the pressure feel a bit more like it's not permanent.
yeah. But still, the 4 months is a little bit intimidating. Kind of looking at that,
Yeah,
but
yeah, for sure.
um, but yeah, tell me more. How do I manage pressure?
Yeah,
I need
yeah.
more.
Recognizing it's been a lot of me just being like, today was tough. Um, the what the research would say, managing pressure is a lot about your framing and your mindset, which I think is a lot of what we're doing here is trying to
Yeah, we talked about
set
season. We
set the
talked about
pressure. Yeah, set the
taking
pressure you're
yourself out of
feeling
it. Yeah,
exactly in context of like what is this working towards? Where does this exist as a season of life? Um, what can be changed about this pressure? What can't be changed? Accepting the things that can't be changed, and yeah, moving forward. And the challenge pressure, that sort of like vocab word, sort of like the good, motivating, leading you towards something that matters to you. Pressure is really good. it leads to more meaning, and it leads to more innovative ideas, was sort of the specific thing that this research study was using as a metric for positive outcome. And the inverse, this hindrance pressure, sort of like time crunch, et cetera, led to way less innovative ideas, shut down creativity, brought you back into a shell. Um, so if there's something you could do, it would be, zoom out for 10 minutes and set the pressure in context and try to frame it through what it's challenging you towards.
Yep. And I think maybe looking from my own experience too, like who's putting the pressure on me? I think a lot of times, especially early, I mean, most of the time it is boss. I think sometimes it's like pressure I put on myself. Um, and yeah, and then how can we just be it's so hard to do, a little immune to the human approval. Like I talked to another buddy about that just the morning about being addicted to the attaboys or whatever, where you just like, and that's where I feel some of the pressure too, is just like the people pleasing side of things. And then like the pressure I put on myself, which, well, a lot of us high achievers have that problem too, that we're just like we're just hard on ourselves. So,
Yeah. How do you think about that? When I look at the pressure that I feel, it's like 98% me.
yeah.
Like I talked to 3 people today, and all of them were like, "You're doing a great job. Like, thanks for all the hard work." Like, "Oh, I'm so glad you got this done." And inside, I'm like sprinting a million miles an hour, thinking I'm not gonna get it done and everything's gonna explode. So
Yeah.
I don't know. How do you think about managing that self self pressure?
I don't know. I mean, I think I'm turning to prayer a little more and like trying to give it over to God, that is not all in my hands, to make things happen. Um, there's a scripture that says, "Don't worry about anything, but in everything come to me with thanksgiving and praise, um, and prayer." So I think some of it's just like the perspective of gratitude, um, but I don't know. It's hard. Like the pressure we put on ourselves. So I guess I'm just, yeah, maybe even just like asking what's the point? um
What's the point of the pressure, or what's the point of trying to prevent the pressure?
what yeah, that's a good question. Like having a little bit more of like just try not to care quite as much, I
Mm,
guess. Is like when I'm saying why am I putting my pressure on it? Like asking myself, like, why am I feeling stressed by this situation? Yeah. I think that's a little bit, and even like, for me, it comes with pleasing clients or trying to get the new clients. It's like, okay, what's the worst case? It's like, okay, they will not decide to work with Arbo. Okay, like that's the worst case, and like that'll be okay. um, and but there's like all this pressure on me to, want them to like me and like buy our services and all the things. So, or the self pressure I have to grow the firm and like make it a certain size because everyone else has built successful consulting firms. And so if I can't build a firm that's 50 people, then like I'm not worthy. But I think even like, well, maybe I don't want a firm that's 50 people. Or maybe that's not what I'm called to be. So I don't know. I'm rambling some. Thanks for your grace, listeners. But most of the yeah, what do you do with like the self-imposed pressure we put on ourselves?
I think those are good thoughts.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird that to say this, but it's like most people, or some people are like talk to like younger generations, they need to care more, which I don't buy into. But someone else talked to Lexi about like, you need to lower your give a shit factor, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and I think for high achievers, we like probably do a little bit. Like, I think we're called to be excellent in like everything that we do. And I'm not saying that, but like, how do we care just a little less about work for us whose bend is to be addicted to work?
Yeah. Um, there's a there's a book that's out there. I don't know if I'll say I'll recommend. It's really good, honestly, but the name is controversial, which is The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F.
Yeah.
I don't know if have you read this book?
No, I've heard or I've read the synopsis. Yeah.
It's honestly really funny. The author's an incredible writer. Christy read this book while we were on our sabbatical time, and it was really, really impactful for her. And the basic premise is you have a finite amount of F's to give. And if you give one, then it's gone. You don't get to give it again, and you only have 10 a day. And basically, like, you should not give your finite number of F's to things that don't matter to you, is the basic premise of the book. You know, you can debate the language for sure, but I think the concept is really valuable, which is like, you don't have an infinite amount of cares to give away. You don't have an infinite amount of effort to exert. You're going to use all of it in the day. And so we should choose to use the like emotional effort of caring towards stuff that really matters. And I think it's probably fair criticism of me that if I have 10 cares to give away in a day, like I use 9 of them on work. And I don't really think I want to give 9 of them to work. I might want to give 7 of them to work in a weekday, but not 9, you know? So I think it's wise to say I should probably tone this back a little bit, just genuinely how much I care.
Yeah, which is so hard. And it's like I don't want my team to tone back how they care.
That's
But
an
I
interesting
also
question.
don't want them burnt out and to have like that's where
Yeah. I don't know if care
okay.
is
Care is probably not
a
the right
synonym
word.
as of effort.
Yeah.
Which I think is probably the lie that we believe. Like
Yeah.
if that like the more I care, the more effort I give, the better I do.
Yes.
But I don't know if that's true.
I know, but every bone in my body wants to scream that that's true.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing it as it's like the more, yeah, I don't know. Even on the biz dev side of things, it's like the more emails I send or outreaches I make don't necessarily turn into more revenue. Like most of our clients have come more organically than that. Um, but I think you're right. Like caring is not the right word. I wonder if it's like we make a small thing become the big thing too. It's like, okay, if I don't get this client, then I'm not going to hit my revenue target for the year. Then I'm not going to be able to hire the next employee. Then I'm not going to be able to grow the firm that I want to, and it's like, no, like you're not going to work with that client and another one will come.
Yeah.
So I wonder if like that pressure we feel is like from making a small thing, like something really, really big.
I like that framing.
Yeah.
Definitely do the same thing.
Yeah.
And I think if I don't get this task done today, then people are going to think I'm bad, and I'm not going to get promoted. I'm not going to get the trust that I want, and I'm not going to get the cool projects. Eventually, I'm going to, I don't know, burn out and get fired and be a bum.
Yeah.
So I feel you.
Okay. Thanks. The other thought I'll add on, because last year I think that we've talked about, I spent a lot of the year just like stressed and anxious. And this year, the theme for the year has been peace. Just like I want to press in and like I want Stephen to be known as like a peaceful person. And my spiritual director, which you helped me talk about, who I've mentioned before, and also my executive coach. So two different, you know, frames coming from things when talking about stress. It's like, how can you just like, instead of saying stress is bad, which is something you write about, Adam, it's like, how can you accept it and say, okay, stress is actually causing me to focus on something. So like, what am I focusing on? And how can I just almost like sit in the stress and like feel it and then figure out how that focus is it's bringing me to focus on something. And then what can I do about it? So I know that's still a little bit out there, but I've been thinking
That's
about
great.
that, like not sitting in the stress, but it's like, oh, I feel stress. That's okay. Like it's causing me to think about this one thing. How could I spend a little bit more time there?
I think it's perfect framing for this conversation. It's really good.
I'm excited to get to trend spotters. Is it too soon? Do we wrap up? Is there a quick thing to like, how do you manage pressure? I guess, is it what we talked about? You
I think it's exactly what you
make
said. I think you should take that question this time.
Don't let the small things be the big things.
Yeah, don't let the small
Yeah.
things be the big things. Accept the stress and consider how it's pointing you to focus on something.
Okay. Is that going to help you tomorrow?
I don't know. I don't know. I still got a lot to do.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
And
that
think about seasons.
don't care. Yeah, don't stress the small things. Does help me tomorrow. I think I walk into tomorrow feeling a little lighter and a little more willing to if I have kind of 3 big things going on, probably a little more willing to say, I'm not going to really think about the third one today at all. I'm just going to focus on these 2 because I know they're the more important things tomorrow. So I think it's good advice.
Good. Good. This conversation is also validating for my working hypothesis on the formula for meaningful work because everyone loves a frame. But strengths plus community plus balance. And you had a bad day because it didn't feel like it was in balance. So you had too much on your plate and it was just like a sprint. And that's when I feel most dissatisfied, is like when I leave the office with like, I didn't get everything done today that I wanted to get done. That's like not a good feeling. So, okay, can we go to Trend Spotters, our new segment? Okay. So I listened to another podcast today. I know, competition. It's GeekWire, and it was about agentic AI. Am I even saying that right? Busy agents, AI agents. And his thesis, this venture capital guy that invests, it's named PSL, not Pumpkin Spice Latte. It's something else.
Trademarked.
Yeah, but he's like, the new competitive moats, which is, very bougie VC, will not be products. It will be distribution and data, because product is becoming commoditized in the rise of AI. It's like easier to replicate and create the product because now. And so I was curious to get your hot take on that.
I think I buy that. I would also add regulatory, like compliance stuff as a moat, which I feel very grateful to work at Check, which is a business that moves money and it has 42 state licensures to do that take 3 years to acquire and a lot of effort to maintain.
Yeah.
You can't vibe code your way to running payroll in the US, thankfully. But 3 years
This is
from
where
now,
our backgrounds align. My experience at MoneyGram and our huge
that's right.
compliance
That's
department.
right.
Yeah. You can't vibe code your way. Yeah.
I think 3 years from now, you could probably create, 50% of our API infrastructure interface and our components in like a month. I just think the ability to build software is getting faster and faster and faster and faster and is becoming a commodity. I buy the thesis. I've been thinking about similar things. I've heard another series of podcasts that also would add evals, which I think this VC might put underneath data as like a subcomponent of data. But an eval for the AI agent is basically like a series of tests to confirm that the agent operated correctly, which are also sort of like proprietary and very context specific. Like what is good writing? You can have 50 evals that sort of critique the voice and structure of your writing and different components and areas of the piece of writing. And that is sort of hard fought, hard won context knowledge of what works for users that will be hard for AI to replicate in like a generalized model way. So maybe more depth than you were looking for, but I
That's
agree.
exactly what I wanted. Yeah. It's helpful. And the eval's new word for my vocabulary, but it's like directly applicable to my work. The other thing I've been thinking about too is Financial Times ran an article about how like, will consulting firms now become software companies?
Mm.
Um, because professional services can be back to your Bain days at Bain, like probably half of your work could have been, you know, AI driven now. And so I've just been thinking about that for my own business. Okay, like what we do, like what could we turn into like a software product? And I haven't moved past. I read the article on my, when I got home today, but but I've just been thinking about that thought of, will more companies just become software companies? But I think that's like a catchy thing to say, and like, what does that actually mean? How would that work?
Yeah.
Find out. Yeah.
I can definitely envision a world where the work you do, like delivering a like article critiquing, a set of article critiquing like evals and AI prompts would be extremely valuable to your clients. Like
Yeah.
we've built your voice and now we've built a tool that will never let you write anything that's not in your voice forever
Mm,
that we give you
yeah.
as like a as we depart, or that we charge you for forever.
Yeah.
Um, that would
And
be
that gets
really
to the
valuable.
evals. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I have been building a model. I call it the strategy and story index that will like score a company on how good they are at
Totally.
communicating their strategy and then like telling that story over the long term. And that's what I've been feeding context and like kind of building that out and training it. And so I'm using it as a biz dev tool, and just kind of an interesting thought exercise. But that could be another like example of that where it's like the value there is in the eval of like all the context I've been like
For sure.
talking
100%.
about. Okay, cool. All right. Sorry, I ended up talking more on this podcast. I'm supposed to be interviewing you.
I don't know. I think at this point we're teammates.
Okay, great. Love it. Any trend spotter on your radar? Even though I got all your feedback on mine.
Um, I like your trend spotter. I don't know if I've said this hot take, but the like hot take trend spotter thing that has been most interesting to me is this thesis that AI is going to bring more jobs onshore, actually, because the capability of a low skilled US based person is going to expand so dramatically that you would rather have someone, you'd rather pay like one person in the US versus four people abroad to accomplish like the same general amount of work. And so there, you actually might see more jobs in the US from AI. And if it like sort of plays out in that way.
Okay.
Interesting potential hot take.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's outsourcing, then it's been or what near sourcing is what I've been hearing a lot of lately.
Yeah.
Uh, and
Like in my
then
work, we definitely
yeah,
we have kind of like a series of there's a lot of tasks that have like a series of complexity, and like lowest level complexity is AI, second lowest level complexity is outsourced, third lowest level of complexity is like someone in the US. And like AI is working its way up the stack, right? But like first it's coming for the outsourced
yeah,
folks,
interesting.
not for the insourced folks. Like we need the insourced folks to control the AI and like point it in the right direction.
Yeah, interesting times we're living in. Okay, you ready for Delve Deck?
Always.
All right. What fashion trend have you refused to get involved with?
Oh man, I stay away from all of them. I do no fashion trends. Um, the two things I've done on fashion my entire life is up until college, I wore whatever was in my closet. That didn't fit. And then in college, I decided I should wear clothes that fit. That's the one fashion decision I've ever made in my life. Since then, I've been wearing clothes that fit correctly, and that's it. That's my fashion. Um, I don't know. I'm like out on Crocs these days. I'm out on like loafers. I'm out on golf polos. Trying to think any other fashion stuff I'm out on. What about you? Fashion thing you stayed away from?
Yeah, I guess I'm out of golf polos too a little bit. There's just so many in Dallas, and I don't follow the crowd necessarily with the latest throwback and what is it, Johnny O and Peter Millar and I don't know, so many golf polos.
Yeah, that's maybe the
Yeah.
most controversial of the southern non-fashion
So you
takes.
mentioned it, yeah. I was like, I don't know. My Oregon roots is like, well, I never did the man bun. You did that, but I think the man bun's kind of over.
It is kind of over.
Yeah, and the
I
mullet's
killed
in.
it, right?
Yeah, I guess we could say we're refusing to get involved with the mullet. We're way too old for that.
Yeah. Yeah, those are good ones.
Okay, great. Love it.
Here's a fashion thing I've always wanted to work and I've just never been able to do it is wearing a blazer with just a white t-shirt and
Mm,
tennis shoes. I've always felt like
mm.
that look is just like so swag, and I just don't have the confidence to pull it off.
Okay, I've done it a few times, and I feel a little bit like a fraud, but also like pretty cool. So I'm gonna try that this week.
Yeah. I think there's no other way to feel when you're wearing that outfit.
I am a startup founder. It's not like high tech yet, though, right? But I could still. All right, try it tomorrow, even though you're
Oh, I
working from
couldn't.
home.
I can't.
Okay.
I don't have the confidence.
Just you. It'll help your grinding days away when you. Okay. I'm off script. Anything else? I guess an analogy to bring this point home. Anything from the main topic?
I don't know. I think about pressure. It's cliche, but pressure creates diamonds, and pressure also like blows up buildings. It's like the same force that, depending on where it's applied and how it's applied, can have different outcomes. So
Pretty good.
I don't know.
Nice.
Think about pressure,
Yeah.
how it's forming into a diamond.
Great. I love it. And one question we should ask ourselves as we finish our commute home.
I like your question. Where is this? What is the stress leading me to focus on?
Let's do it. All right. And with that, we will see you guys next time. Thanks for joining us today. This show has been brought to you by Arvo Advisory, a new category of consulting company, half management consultancy and half executive communication and PR firm. Arvo works with great leaders to craft and communicate their strategy to achieve change and create valuable companies. Find out more at arvoadvisory.com or follow us on LinkedIn. And finally, if you've been blessed at all by this podcast, please remember to rate and review the show or share it with a friend. And with that, go forth and know that you are loved because of who you are and not because of what you do for work. See you next time.